All right, so in today's screencast, I'm going to go over just reviewing some tools in Photoshop that I went over with you in class yesterday. So this is what I would like to see from you. Like, first step, number one, take a really good picture of your image. Make sure that it's upright. Make sure you have good lighting. Make sure that your picture is clear. There's no shadows being casted on the photo. The more of this that you get out of your picture, the easier it will be to work with in Photoshop. So I'm using Seyoon's picture as my example for this tutorial. Thank you, Seyoon. And I used it yesterday. So this is a really good example of what I'd like to see. Her picture's clear, and the background is clean. I'm looking at this image upright. There are no specs as far as size requirements of your image for this assignment. Like, I'm not asking you to make it 10 by 15 inches or anything like that. So however you bring it into Photoshop, you can just work with it right within that file. So for instance, Seyoon's picture is about 40 inches roughly by 55. This is a really large file. And that's fine. She can work in her file this way. But yours may not be that size. Yours might be 20 by 40 or 15 by 18. I don't know. So don't really look so much at that. You can just focus on your picture and making sure that it's clean and it's clear and so forth. So in Photoshop, you have your layers. So when you open up your file, you automatically open up your background layer, right? So we're going to keep that as is. And I had said, the main focus of this assignment is the object that you are that you've created with pencil, right? And then also the movement that you're adding to the image in Photoshop. Everything else in the background really should be simple. You don't want to lose focus from those objects with something that's going on in the background. So my suggestion would be to keep your background as simple as possible. I don't want to see folds in paper. I don't want to see markings on the background of your image. I want it to be clean, all right? So one thing that you can do is using your selection tools, right? So I think Mr. Billy went over some of these with you. You have your rectangle marquee, which selects, okay, oops, sorry, which selects, you can make a selection. You have your lasso tool. There's actually a variety here, but polygonal lasso tool, so like wherever you start, you can create. Whoops, the reason it's not doing it is because I have, bear with me, this selection here. Okay. Okay. To deselect a selection, it's Control D or Command D. And then you also have your wand tool, which I was showing you yesterday. I think this would be a really good tool to use because what it does is it picks up like colors. So when I select an area of that white space, it's picking up just that white space around it. All right, and if you look at my tolerance, it's on 20. And I had said the less the tolerance, like let's say I made it 5, the less it's going to pick up, right? The more the tolerance, the more it's going to pick up. In this picture, putting it at about 20 is a good tolerance to have your picture at, because you're just dealing with like a lot of white space against this gray dolphin. But you'll see if you were to use this in other scenarios, it might be better to have less tolerance or more tolerance depending on the colors that are occurring within the image. To select more of the object and not just that one area, holding the Shift key down, you can see that a little plus sign pops up, and then I can go in and select more of that area. I'm going to do that again right here. And you can see that I have these like little selections throughout the image that are moving. what I am going to do is use my marquee tool, and you can use your selection tools together. I'm going to hold the shift key down and just kind of drag it over, and you can see that it kind of selected that as well. When you're using your selection tools or any tool in Photoshop, you want to zoom in and out to look at it really close and really far away. So what I'm doing is looking at this image really close to make sure that my selection is right up against that dolphin and it's not cutting into the dolphin, or they're not pieces that are missing in the white area. Let's see. So I'm just really making sure we're looking for precision. So you can see that I selected this entire outside area of my picture, and now I can change it. My suggestion, yesterday I had said you could color it in using your paintbrush, right, and changing the color. Or you can go up top to edit fill, and you can fill that space in as well. So I'll show you both. But please do not do this directly into your background. If you were going to paint or fill directly into your background, it's now going to become permanent and a part of that background layer. So my suggestion would be to create a new layer. So at the bottom of your layer bar, you have this little icon that looks like a piece of paper with a fold in it. That's create a new layer. If I click on it, it will create a new layer for me. I can click on the word layer 1 and put background color. Okay, so that I know that that's the layer that I'm working with. And now I feel comfortable in my background color layer to go in and change the color of the background. So if I really wanted to make it a really white, I can go in with my paintbrush, make my paintbrush really big, and just paint over this. You can change the size of your paintbrush up in your paintbrush toolbar up here, right? And I can fill it all in. You can also change your paintbrush on your keys. If you, to the right of the P, you have brackets. You have a left bracket and a right bracket. Your left bracket will make your paintbrush smaller, and your right bracket will make your paintbrush bigger. So those are just little quick tools that you can use to make your paintbrush bigger and smaller. You can also, instead of cleaning up the background that way by painting it in, you could do edit, fill, all right, and you can change the color here. So I can go to color and pull up a color that I would like to use and hit OK, and it will fill that entire area with that color. You can also go in and using your paintbrush, let's see, I could play around with some things, like maybe I want to make a gradient or something. I could show you other ways to make gradients, if you, other ways too, but let me just show you this because it's a little bit simpler. You can use a soft paintbrush or a hard paintbrush. You can also change the opacity of the paintbrush. That would be how, if the transparency of it, and the flow would be like the pressure. And I can go in, let's say I wanted to make, I don't know, my own gradient through the background. I could add, you know, a nice paintbrush technique through the background of this image. Or you can also bring in another image into this piece as well. I'm not going to show you that in this screencast, but I can show you at another point in time. And that's how you can kind of adjust the background. What you can also do is adjust the value of your image, right? If I wanted to make, that's how dark or light something is. So let's say I specifically just wanted to change the value of the dolphins, right? So I'm going to select my dolphin layer, and I can go to my adjustments, right? So my adjustments are right here. And these are all adjustments that you can play around with. I would personally go to levels. What levels will do is change the darkness and the lightness, or the dark values and the light values of your image. Sorry. Boop. So this will, the left tab is your dark values. That will make your dark values darker, right? The middle tab is your middle values. That will make your middle values, if you pull to the left, lighter, and if you pull to the right, darker. Okay? And then you also have your lightest values. So if you pull that to the left, it's going to make your light values lighter. So you can add some contrast to your image as well. So now if you look at my layer bar, I have 3 different layers. I have my background, which I could actually label dolphin, right? Because that's really just my dolphin right now. Okay. And then I have my levels above that, which is the change in value that I created to the dolphin. So if I turn that eyeball on and off, you can see the intensity of the dolphin has changed. And then I also created this background color using my selection tools for the background. So these are things that I would like to see from you today, to see you working on today. This is going to be your final copy. So what I'd also like to see you do is save it correctly. So what you're going to do is go to File, Save As. When you go to Save As, I'm saving it in my folder called Animation. All right, I want to make sure that's the right folder. See, I'm making sure it's the right folder. And I'm gonna label this Sayun example, because this is Mrs. Dauble's example that she's using for this project, right? And when you do that, when you make changes in Photoshop, it's going to take your image and it's going to format the image and make it into a Photoshop file. So I do not want you to change it. So after you save it, at the end, it says .psd. That's a Photoshop file. If you look down here, it says Format, Photoshop. You want to keep it a Photoshop file because you don't want to lose your work. If you were to flatten this, you would lose all of your layers. So as you continue to work on this project, I want you to continue to save your file as a Photoshop file. All right, so I'm going to hit Save. It'll say Maximize Compatibility, hit OK, and then you're good to go. This assignment, I believe, I'll go over more with you in class, but I believe this part of the assignment I would like to see from you in class at the end of class tomorrow. All right, if you have any questions, let me know.